Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Previously, I recorded way too long, and so I decided to split this video into two. This is the second of two parts, so without further ado, please enjoy. Okay, I'm gonna trust my gut here. The game's signposting that this is the key.
Objection!
Yeah, that was kind of obvious from the dialogue with, Mikotoba. Well, I can think of one reason. What? But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut? Of course he did. There can be no question of that. After all, when we were all in the laboratory together, all we were told is that it was a terrible toxin. And there is one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Minbami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, counsel? Minbami-san has made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found an opportunity, this man would have seen it. Ugh. Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have imbibed the poison whilst the defendant was present. Wow, I was barking at the wrong tree. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Minbami-san entered the hut. Yes, very articulately put. Oh, brother, there is a deep irony in mispronouncing and stumbling your words over the word articulate. Oh, Lord. When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Minbami-san overheard some worrying information. Worrying information? What worrying information? The information which he subsequently included in his newspaper article, namely, that the poison was being developed in strict secrecy and that it couldn't be readily obtained. Oh. Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone afflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs in death. The extreme constriction of the pupils? Yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people. Oh! Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. Minbami-san being no exception. Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered this unique poison to the victim was a layperson unaware of its telltale properties. In other words, someone like you, right in Minbami? Gag! It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day, and it was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that it was a terrible mistake. Because the poison caused such unusual symptoms and was so traceable. As you listened in from the far side of the beach hut's thin walls, you learned of these facts. But you'd already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late. So you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. A plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back through the reed screen.
Objection!
But what good could that possibly do? Isn't it obvious, counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect. Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction. But he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he? Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would ever have suspected. This is extraordinary. Yes, the effects of the poison meant it would be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use, which he attempted to do by plunging a knife into the middle of the victim's back. Huh. Well, at this point, I think I can completely discard my theory that he did it to forge a story for his newspaper. Yeah, he's going on about trying to bring his own twisted sense of justice to Giselle Brett, and I believe that now. Order! 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 The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied that it warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward? Well, there are a number of... yes, I counter completely.
Objection!
The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he is clinging to lost hope. Burn! Lost hope? Okay, here it comes. He's gonna go like, how could I possibly have smuggled it out of the lab? That's when he showed them pen. Oh! Ah, you pathetic, useless, fallen samurai! Fallen? Who are you calling fallen? My burgeoning... I don't need a counter-argument. What are you talking about? It should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say. Gave it to the victim, you say. Stabbed her, you say. Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter-argument because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence? Yes, you make it all sound so plausible, don't you? But without evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my news on facts. Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself. I mean, what the professor said earlier in this trial. It's all here in my many memos, every word, every slip of the tongue, all noted. That's what the Shoyu News is famous for. It's the power of the printed word. But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. How's that then? Blown the story right open. See? I, write in many memo, a mere reporter from the Shoyu News, couldn't possibly have stolen that poison from the professor's laboratory. Ugh. But there can't be any question of it. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. And if that's the case... As you've identified, the poison itself is the definitive evidence we need. Because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here. What's your point, you annoyingly handsome country bumpkin? My point is this. There is one way that you, Minimamo-san, could have stolen the poison that day. I have heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. What the court must be shown is evidence. What proof do you have that this witness stole the poison on the day in question?
Take that!
The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen. Bingo. Bullseye. Ah! A fountain pen? How can that possibly be relevant?
These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now. Bah, I swear by the weasel hair calligraphy brush and nothing else. These newfangled pens are merely a fad. Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, obviously I love my fountain pen. Suck up a soup con of sumptuous ink, and one's work is awash with words in the blink of an eye. That's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, into which ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later. What does all this talking of sucking up ink have? Oh! And just as it's possible to suck ink up into the reservoir, it's also possible to eject it through the nib again, of course.
My word. Can this really be?
Well, Mini-Memo-san. When you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? By siphoning the poison up through the nib and into the pen's reservoir. Gag!
We got him.
More absurdity! That never happened. True, we've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory. But would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places?
No. I'm a little ashamed to say that for fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say.
I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by Mini-Memo-san. So the crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped?
Are you suggesting?
The natural conclusion is that in your haste to act whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen after you emptied the poison from it into her glass.
Objection!
There could be any number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using his pen to write down details of his conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell from his quivering hand.
Objection!
No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink? What? As you can see for yourself if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen? No, the pen was dropped after the poison that filled its reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass.
Witness, what do you have to say in your defense?
What? So this is how our modern justice system works, is it? So what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So what if my pencil snaps? I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Logan, is that you? Hi-ya! You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen? That's wild speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down a fine, upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again.
It looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this matter. As I see it, the situation is now very simple. It rests upon whether or not this witness did indeed steal the poison on the day in question. And therefore it all depends upon whether or not the defense can prove that he did with evidence.
Ha! No such evidence could possibly exist.
Objection!
Mini-Memo-san, This is how our modern justice system works. What? In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember. Because we are well past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you.
Very well, then. I call upon the defense to present the aforementioned evidence.
This is it, then. This will be the final piece in the puzzle. The defense can prove by means of this item that it was the witness's pen that was used to steal the poison.
Well... I mean... Can we run a test on it? I mean, yeah, we ran a test on the knife. Yeah, just run a test on the pen. The same way you ran a test on the knife, right?
Take that!
You believe that this evidence will prove beyond doubt that the witness used this pen to steal the poison?
What do you believe, Your Excellency?
I believe you are gravely misguided. No. No, I'm not. Come on, man.
Misguided? Oh dear. Well, I believe I could do better next time. The defense can prove by means of this item that it was the witness's pen that was used to steal the poison. Well...
I mean, this was half drained. Or can we look at the photograph again? Yeah, the poison's not in this photograph. Do we point out the knife and say that, hey, we ran a test on this knife? Or do we point out that Giselle Brett was holding the pen? Maybe the autopsy report? Well, I like that this final puzzle is stumping me. But at the same time, this video is running kind of long. Can we do a demonstration?
Take that!
Counsel, what is that bottle? Yeah, the bottle was my first gut instinct after the pen itself to do a test.
This bottle contains the unique chemical region that can identify the poison in question.
That's not the bottle of poison. That is the chemical that used to test for it. Forgive me? It's been a day since I last recorded. And what's more, when I see green vial, my nerdy ass thinks, ah yes, poison vial. That is the color of poison vials in video games. Yes, that is the poison. Oh my god. Oh, I am a professional dumbass. Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues and I. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method.
Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical reagent, anybody at all could check for traces of the poison. A reagent? What? One drop of the contents of this bottle on the tip of your fountain pen, Menimemo-san, is all it will take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt. No, you can't. I won't. Your crimes are bad enough, but at least know when to admit defeat. Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the test on the fountain pen at once. Whoa! This isn't my fault. The Empire drove me to this, trying to hold its head high as a civilized nation bowing to its head to every foreign. I took up arms for the mighty pen battlefield to defuse in the name of justice, righteous memory, numbers, paragon. Oh. Susato, with me. I'm there.
The Susato takedown.
Did I do it right? That was a Susato takedown, wasn't it? Not quite. That was a Ryotaro takedown.
Bravo. Bravo.
The instant the first drop of the regent touched the nib of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present. When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got hold of me and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Into your fountain pen.
Yes, that's right. Answer me one thing, Memo-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose?
Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project after all, too juicy for a journal like me to pass up. Then why did the Englishwoman end up dead? I went into that hut intending to quiz her on the situation, that's all, as a reporter. A known killer, enjoying freedom, evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed in my face. Oh, what's this? A Far Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism? Really, you must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian. What did you call me? This country, with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really very depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave you came from.
Damn!
That's when I remembered about the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time.
What a terrible tale.
In my head, I knew I should get out of there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done when she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journo spirit, getting all fired up. I'd like to ask you something. Yes. You often talk about justice. But surely, as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver the justice you sought. There's no justice in the press. Sorry? After that trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what had happened in the courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up, that's what it was. A cover-up? What do you mean?
I would remind you of your position, witness. Be careful of what you say. Come on, doesn't it strike you as strange? We're suddenly not allowed to convict a foreign national. Consular jurisdiction should never come into it. And yet that puffed-up Englishwoman was going to sail away into the sunset a free woman. The only possible explanation is that, behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan.
What sort of deal?
I'd done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up. He came under pressure from the government, you mean? If our government is going to let criminals walk free, if they're going to crush the free press, then what choice do I have but to see that justice is done myself?
Let's not forget, Minimomo-san, that you committed murder yourself and you tried to lay the blame at the defendant's door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett. What? The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all. I suppose.
It would appear that we have reached a conclusion in this trial at last. Counsel for the defense, Ryotaro Naruhodo.
Oh. Yes, sorry, Your Excellency. Just musing in a manly way here.
It's almost unbelievable that this is your first experience of the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance. In truth, it very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits.
Oh, Naruhodo-san? Ryunosuke, you mean?
The way he handled the trial 9 months ago, and the way you handled this one, it gives me hope that we are genuinely entering a new era of justice in this land.
That's very flattering, Your Excellency.
Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your contemporaries.
Thank you.
So, Prosecutor Ouchi, do you have any final thoughts?
What the... Oh, Jesus, that's dark. I know what that is. Oh, come on. Oh, I feel bad for laughing, this poor man. Oh, Prosecutor Ouchi? I, Takatsuchi of the Ouchi clan, have been bested by a callow youth not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of my former self left, it has withered and died here today. Gosh, your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it? Silence. Rather than living on in shame. I will end it all now with this blade. For that is the true path to Ouchiism. Ouchiism?
One hopes that's the only way in which he'll be modeling himself after the witness.
Sprig on my top knot. The time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Takatsuchi. I don't know about you, but I put my hands together. What a solemn loss.
Now, in regard to the defendant, Rei Mbami-san,
Yes, Your Excellency.
I have reached my final verdict. I hereby find you not guilty.
Hooray!
Court is adjourned.
As tempting as it is to end the video, now we'll just get this out of the way and then we can start the next video with Case 2. Maybe I should start thinking of it as Case 7, actually. Because this really does feel like one big, long video game, this collection. It's over. My heart is still pounding in my chest, though. It's all I can do just to stay standing. I'm sorry. What is that little mouse on his shoulder? What? What is that? What is that? I didn't notice that before. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such a great burden to bear. What is that? Don't they, Naruhodo-san? Susato! Susato! Thank you. Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there. Rei and Father. Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I think I'm going to cry. It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end, too. The only reason I'm still here is because of you. Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Rei, so I would have to say that the congratulations belong to you. Susato, don't be so standoffish. Sorry? We're friends, equals, and the trial's over, so no more of this formal super humility nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger, to throw a caution to the wind. Caution to the... what? I'm the great defense lawyer, Ryotaro Naruhodo, and I'm taking you out to a milk bar tomorrow. Or something. Right, I see. I'll, think about it, Rei.
Oh, there is something going on here, and it is gay as fuck.
At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of that horrid man, and it felt so good. Yes, it was satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anybody else who could throw together? Isn't there anybody else we could throw together?
She says as she looks at Susato's own father. I hope you're not looking at me, Rei.
Oh my goodness, no, of course not, of course not! Ah, there it is at last. Rei's lovely smile.
You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you, defense attorney Ryotaro Naruhodo.
Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryotaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikotoba now. So, I'll never see him again then? What a terrible shame.
Oh, they gay.
What? What is happening? Ah, Soseki-san and Inspector Hosonaga. I do hope you've been keeping well. Is that really you? Yes, I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope, but it's me. Susato Mikotoba. Don't! So dashing, so divine. No! Doubly dashing, yes, and devilishly divine. Just look at you. I had no idea Miss Susato-san Esquire said you were locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire's cousin. Astonishingly astounding, the ace attorney.
Hey, he said it. He said the thing. Roll the credits. Go home, folks.
Poor Soseki-san, so confused. I still remember the first time I ever met him. He was in a prison cell in London. What extraordinary conundrum it was that the unwitting student from Japan found himself embroiled in. But after Naruhodo-san's skillful defense of the Old Bailey, at the Old Bailey, Soseki-san was free to return to Japan. And now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. I'm stunned. That's a truly impressive disguise. Even I had no idea, and I'm a chief inspector at the police bureau. Who came up with Mr. Turtle, no less?
I'm not sure you should be admitting to that, Inspector.
Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see. Just two, really. And this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. Oh, I'm not a patch on you, though, Inspector.
Well, I am a professional, of course.
I do worry about Inspector Hotonaga sometimes, I really do. 9 months ago, when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover, disguised as the head waiter of a restaurant. And then on the steamship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. Though that didn't help you, did it, Kazuma-sama? From my perspective, I have to admit that I have mixed feelings about all this. I mean, now the truth has been lost forever. What do you mean? I'm talking about the murder that the Englishwoman committed at the end of last year. Ah, yes, it was an English doctor she killed, as I understand it.
Dr. John H. Wilson, yes. The man I invited to Japan personally.
The mystery is, why did she kill him? And now that the culprit herself is dead, we'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter. With Mr. Herlock Sholmes, the great detective, I mean.
Yes, I remember Mr. Sholmes well, of course.
Ah, my arch-nemesis. How lightly you utter his name. Well, according to the stories published about him in the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes, a best friend. And that man was an exceptional doctor of medicine by the name of John H. Wilson. What? Dr. Wilson? I just can't believe it's a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago must have been the friend and partner of Mr. Sholmes. And if that's really true, then the poor girl won't ever see her beloved father again.
As you know, I traveled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born.
Yes, grandmother told me about it.
On returning to Japan, I took up my professorship at the Imperial Yume University. But I also serve another role as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs.
Yes, I was aware of that as well.
In that case, I'm sure you understand that there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you.
Could you just tell me one thing? Why did you summon me back to Japan? It's been 2 months now since I returned. When I left England, it was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said that you'd collapsed with a high fever and you were growing weaker by the day. What? Where did that news come from?
I knew it.
That's what I'd like to know, because after that long sea voyage I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain that you perceived might inconvenience me in some way, or harm me? That's really the only explanation I can think of.
Dear me, do you reserve your most cutting glares for your father, Susato? I'm sorry, my dear, I simply can't. Oh.
Many Memo-san. So one throw wasn't enough for you?
I've got one last thing to say before they take me away. Professor. Me? I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate. Visiting student? Giselle Brett, you mean? No, not her. The student of law who left for Great Britain 8 months ago.
What? Student of law? He must mean Kazuma-sama. What are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with Kazuma-sama?
Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, that he'll never... Oh! Well, I didn't expect to find him in here. What are you officers playing at? Terribly sorry, Your Excellency. Judge got hands. I was coming to tell you that the rickshaw has arrived, Eugen, and it's a good job I came by. Yes, thank you for dealing with him, and I'll be there shortly.
Oh, Your Excellency.
The trial's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore, merely your father's friend, Seishiro Jigoku. He has a name? And may I say that since I saw you last, you seem to have taken on a more dashing appearance. Susato.
Did you know all along, from the start of the trial?
A judge sees everything, Susato. I couldn't let you take the risk. If Seishiro hadn't known, and then he had recognized you. So I had a word in his ear beforehand, as an old friend. So, Seishiro, shall we? Yes. Having ruled on that case, we now have various diplomatic issues to address.
Before you go, Father.
Sorry, my dear, we shall have to return to our earlier conversation at a later date. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably.
Oh, thank you very much.
What did you think of my Seishiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that.
Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett, about Dr. Wilson, and now it seems, according to the reporter, about Kazuma-sama. I'm going to have to bring this up with Father sometime, when nobody else is around. Judicial Assistant Mikotoba-san Esquires, could I have a word? Oh, yes, of course, Soseki-san. What is it? I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you. Oh? I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back from England. This I have to hear. Please, Soseki-san, tell me at once. I will! As you know, my time in England was terrible. Cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things I was embroiled in. Thank goodness locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire stepped in. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on a ship back here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikotoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report. My father? He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was the very next day that he sent a telegram to you asking you to return to Japan.
Whoa.
What was it then? The particular part my father was interested in? I don't really know exactly. But do you remember them? Those 2 terrible cases I was caught up in? Of course, I could never forget. Your father seemed to concern himself mainly with the second case. The second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first. Well, I don't care. I don't have to listen to what that dastardly detective says. Anyway, the point is, it seems that case somehow holds the key to all these curious unanswered questions. That horrific, hideous Highness case, the case of the haunted lodgings. That case somehow caused my father to summon me urgently back to Japan. I thought that whole business was over, but it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told.
So, the mystery of that English woman's death is solved, thank goodness. And having stood in the Supreme Court now, I think I can comprehend a little better. How you must be feeling as you fight for people's freedom in a foreign land, Naruhodo-san. But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Soseki-san and we talked about that second case he was involved in. Father has said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery. My notes on the case should still be in the office, tucked away at the back of the shelves on the left. Perhaps you might like to look over them again. Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue. It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato.
Wow. This game is going places. And... honestly, I think this video is going on long enough that I might just break it up into 2 parts. Yeah, I'll save. Let's see. Here. Episode 2, The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Oh, they're bringing it back. Neat. Oh wow, I've seen in the art there, that art on the wall on the right, it shows the Garadeb household. Interesting. Interesting. So at the start there, I was starting to think the telegram saying that Mr. Mikotoba was ill was sent from someone else. It was fake. It was sabotage to try and get Susato to leave England. But no, it seems to have been genuine. What a dick move to make your daughter on the other side of the world just fret over your health and count the hours, the seconds, as she slowly has to wait on that steamship back home. I don't think Mr. Mikotoba is the kind of person to do that on a whim. no, whatever's happening is so huge, it was worth inflicting that pain on his own daughter. That falsehood. And boy, I'm right. There's a stinky, stinky conspiracy here. I smells it. And that's saying something, because I can't actually smell. I do not have that sense. Oh, wow. Well, I'm quite imagining that Susato will head straight back to Britain, though I could see our next chapter. I'm 100% confident we'll be with Ryunosuke and Herlock and Iris and all them. But the question is, when will Susato appear? Maybe the next case, the 7th in this series, will not have Susato at all, and she'll just appear out of the blue as a nice surprise in a future case. Or maybe this case that we're about to start next time could just fast forward time until she arrives and we pick up from there. And boy, in all that time that passed, maybe Ryunosuke would get up to so many misadventures. Yeah, that would make sense to me as to why Ryunosuke would change his clothes, you know? With that alternate bonus little costume pack thing. Boy, if I had the knowledge I do now, I would have, just kept him in his default clothes, because all those flashbacks to him, but he was wearing clothes he never worn before, that's kind of lame. But yeah, with Susato going to England, hopefully, I'd be open to putting her in that new English costume. That'd be nice. Not sure I'll ever try out that second Herlock Sholmes costume. I didn't like it too much. Anyway... yeah, I think that'll do it. Oh my god, I am so hungry for ramen. And this has been the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, I'll catch you next time. So until then, please take care.